Okay, so I think we'll start this evening's presentation. As I said, many thanks for attending this evening. Certainly, kind of giving up your time. I know it's very precious these days. For kind of in your kind of business, I'm sure a lot of you have got probably jobs and stuff that you're looking to kind of price up this evening. So we'll kind of kick off. This is going to be our third kind of webinar in our little series. We mean business. This evening we're actually going to be talking about how to certainly kind of make more money, improving your profit margin. Before we actually get into the presentation, just want to kind of bring everyone's attention to the GoToWebinar software we use. There will be a Q&A session towards the end of tonight's presentation. So while we kind of go through the presentation, there is a little kind of question panel within your kind of GoToWebinar software. So do please ask questions as we go through, and at the end of it, we'll have a bit of a roundup on the as I said, the Q&A with Simon and myself if you've got any kind of software questions. Before we kind of kick off, I'm just going to show my screen, so you should all see our first slide. So this is going to be kind of death by PowerPoint, I'm afraid, but there is a lot of kind of really interesting kind of content. Just to kind of make it a bit kind of interactive, just going to throw up a bit of a poll before we kind of get off, and it's really just to kind of collectively kind of understand what everyone's kind of profit margins and how much you kind of put onto a job. So if you would just want to take a 30 seconds or a minute or so just to kind of answer the question that's on the screen. So how much margin do you actually add? There's obviously kind of 4 choices there. So 10 to 20%, 20 to 30%, if you're actually putting 30% plus on a job. Or if you want to be honest and you don't know, there are certainly kind of builders and stuff that I speak to. Yeah, they probably don't really kind of know how much they're kind of putting on. So I'm just going to leave that open, get the votes tallied up, and I'll share that information with you guys. Okay, seems like we've got 100%, so everybody's giving me an answer. So I'm just going to close that, and I'm going to share the information with you. So what we've actually got there is 75% of you are in the 10 to 20% bracket, 25% of you are in the 30 plus the bracket. So that's certainly going to be something we're going to be talking about this evening, and certainly going to give Simon a bit more kind of information on what it is that you're kind of doing and how we can actually improve that. So just going to start our little slide by hiding the poll, and we will probably ask another little poll as we kind of go through anyway, so keep you guys on your toes. So as I say, what we're going to be talking about this evening, certainly trying to make more money on your jobs, and how we do that is by improving our profit margin. So I just want to kind of introduce myself. My name's Mark Brady. We're also going to be introducing Simon Lazarus on the Better Business Group. Looking down the list of attendees, I think some of you have already kind of spoken to him anyway. Some of you probably haven't. So Simon's he's going to be our kind of guest speaker this evening. But just to kind of put a bit of a face to the voice, my name's, as I say, Mark Brady. I'm the Group Sales Manager here at HBXL. Been with HBXL for the past 12 years for my sins. And it's a very kind of tried and trusted estimating software package with thousands of builders across the UK are actually using our software to certainly kind of improve and better the way that you kind of approach your kind of estimating. I'm going to hand it over to Simon now just to introduce himself. So what I'm actually going to do as well is just give him the keyboard, the mouse as well, so he can control it from here. Introduce you, Simon.
Thanks, Mark. Good evening. I'm Simon Lazarus. I set up the Better Business Group in 1995 with Mark Siegel. One of our subsidiaries is the Accreditors Register. We were the first company actually in Europe to provide continual monitoring to builders. For the past 30 years, I've been helping builders like you make more money. We work with you on a day-by-day basis to win more work and to charge more, on average 15 to 20% more. In a large part of the UK, we provide high-value, pre-qualified leads for builders to quote on. So, profits. Firstly, I'd like to say we've been working with HBXL for the past 15 years. We monitor over 600 builders and we follow every quote that they do. We analyse what our successful and expensive builders do, and we use this information to help less established builders improve. And without a shadow of a doubt, the most profitable jobs we see are those that are won on the back of HBXL quotes. So everything starts with an accurate costing for the job. It's no good using square meterage rates or guesstimating from a previous similar job. If you do that, sometimes you'll make money, but probably more often though you won't. It's not enough to look at the labour, materials and the plant costs. You must also take into account the day-to-day overhead of running the business and spread this cost over every job. You then need to add your profit margin on top of this higher figure, not just look at the material costs. You also have to ensure that you're making money every month. Rarely does a job go without something unforeseen coming along to nibble away at your profits. If you don't make serious money, it's very easy to lose it. Bad pairs, unforeseen expenses, delays, jobs falling through, you know all the reasons. So, how do you judge your profitability currently? Do you base it on how busy you are? Do you base it on your annual turnover and hope that when the accountant does your books at the end of the year, you've made a profit? You didn't go into business to be busy. You went into business to be your own boss and to make money. It's a cliche, but this particularly applies to the building trades. Turnover is vanity and profit is sanity. Which firm would you rather be? A firm with a £2 million turnover making £75,000 a year, or a firm with £500,000 turnover making £150,000 a year? The Better Business Group used to have a millionaires club, so when a builder did more than £1 million worth of work from the leads we gave them, we took all their staff to the Grove in Watford where the footballers go. We don't do that anymore. For 3 years on the trot, all those businesses we took there went bust. They were so focused on turnover, expanding, empire building, that they paid too little attention to the profit they were making. So what we want to talk about now is how to improve your estimating and setting your profit margin. Your costs are divided into 3 elements. Your company fixed costs, the variable job costs directly relating to the job itself, and the profit margin that you add on the top. Your fixed costs, these exist no matter how much work you're doing. And there are a lot of them. I'm going to flick through them quite quickly. Office costs, management, vans, insurances, accountants and bookkeeping, secretarial, sales and marketing, your websites, your technology, your phones and computers and so on. You have to take all these costs into account. We can send you a free template business model spreadsheet which will enable you to enter all these on and calculate what your annual costs, your fixed annual costs are for running a business. Has 111 lines in it, so it should cover everything that you're likely to be spending money on. This is a part of the page of what it looks like. So as you can see here, you've got all the different headings for all the different types of costs, and you can put it in monthly. Some will be equal every month, some will occur quarterly or annually. And at the end, you'll get an annual figure for your fixed cost of the business. So let's look at an example. Once you've filled that spreadsheet in, let's assume that your overheads come to something like £75,000 a year. If you base it on a 50-week trading year, you'll need to cover £1,500 a week just to break even before you have any profit from jobs. Variable costs. Excuse me. These are the costs of doing the actual building work, and it's incredibly important that you calculate these accurately. This is why HBXL is so important. A few percentage points under costed may not sound like much, but at the end of the year, it can mean the difference between making a profit and working for nothing. These are some of the main areas you need to consider, as well as your parking permits, your waste removal and so on, labour, subcontract costs, your sundries, site setup and management, health and safety and so on. Excuse me. Okay. I agree with Adrian here. In the experience of HBXL founder Adrian, typical overheads for building companies are in the range of 12 to 15% of turnover. So if you only mark up your overheads by 15%, you're probably making zero actual profit on the job. If any unexpected costs arise that you can't reclaim from the client, you're going to lose money. You're not in business to lose money. Let's talk about the profit margins. So we've seen so far, your company overheads can be 15%. So you've got to add at least 15% on this just to break even. We're quite slide heavy on this one. So on top of recovering your 15% overhead, you now have to add an actual profit margin for the business. This means you need to be charging 25 to 30% on top of your job costs just to cover the overhead of the 15% and to make a margin of 10 to 15% on top. 15% is definitely achievable. Better Business Group traders make an average of 20% over all their costs, after all their costs. Okay, let's go over again how to calculate your actual profit margin on the job. Total revenue minus your variable costs gives the gross profit for the business. Your gross profit, take away your fixed costs, gives the actual profit. This is what we're interested in making, the actual profit for the business. It sounds simple, but to make a bigger profit, you've got to keep your expenses as low as possible and keep your income as high as possible. Our advice, as I said previously, you should be aiming for a minimum of 20% actual profit after all your fixed costs, your wages, your staff, your materials, everything on the job. The business should be having 20% clear, which is not unachievable. Some of my builders are doing 30% in actual fact. What you should do as well, when you calculate your profits, if a client doesn't want to pay the money, don't take the job. We're in record busy times. There's plenty of customers out there that will pay the right money for the job. If it's not going to be profitable, don't do it. I'm going to talk in a lot more detail later about how you can achieve all this. But in the meantime, I'm going to pass you back to Mark to explain how to get your variable costs calculated quickly and accurately. Thanks for listening. Over to you, Mark.
Okay, thanks for that, Simon. As I said there, I mean, one of the things that we kind of do when we kind of show the software is we do certainly kind of highlight around the kind of profit margin and how much you're actually looking to make on a job. I've always said to certainly kind of users or anybody in demonstrations about maybe even kind of walking away from a job if the actual quote itself reveals that you're just not going to require, you're just not going to achieve the required margin itself. As I said, I'm going to try and keep you guys on your toes, so I have got another little kind of poll for you as well. I just want to kind of ask really on this particular poll, have you ever actually walked away from a job because you were actually going to make a loss? If that's the case of a yes or no, or maybe that you actually made a loss anyway just to kind of win or certainly kind of keep the job, or you didn't actually kind of realise. So it's going to kind of throw up a bit of a poll there. Looks like we've got 100% on that. So I'm just going to close and share with you guys what the, so yeah, fundamentally, yeah, is you have walked away from a job because you were going to make a loss. Because at the end of the day, who'd want to be kind of working for free? And I'm sure a lot of your customers probably think that you should be working for free anyway. Some of the horror stories and stuff I've kind of heard in the demonstration days, it's pretty crazy. So yeah, you need to know whether or not the actual the cost of the job is actually going to make you a loss, and if it is going to make you a loss, then again, very good advice. Kind of walk away from it. So getting the cost right. Firstly, you really kind of need to get a sound understanding of your actual costs. I think the days of the kind of estimating by a square meter really isn't kind of cutting it anymore. Customers are very demanding. They want to know what's been specified on a particular job. They want to know exactly what they're kind of getting for their buck, really. And you need to kind of really kind of give a breakdown. And there's more demand for that these days, especially with a lot of the TV shows and the Sarah Beanies of this world and stuff, giving advice through the TV. That customers need to have a better understanding from the builders about the actual cost of the job. By using EstimatorXpress and its intelligent calculators to price everything, and we do actually kind of mean everything. I mean, down to the brass tacks, the nails, down to fixing skirtings and stuff to the wall. Everything's kind of itemized. Everything's kind of taken into account, and you do have the flexibility as well to adjust those rates and stuff within the software, so you can control pretty much every aspect of it. And it's also about making sure that the quote itself kind of sets you apart from other firms, other competitors in your area that are kind of estimating. They're probably maybe estimating using software as well. And I guess you've got to kind of get above the those competitors and being able to kind of put a very detailed, broken down quotation with your company details and everything else on there. Everything's kind of itemized. That will certainly kind of set you apart from the competition. So I guess what's the difference between an estimate and what you actually quote? Well, I guess thinking of the estimate as the actual cost to you of the actual building works itself. So the breakdown of materials, labour, plants, all the items that are kind of going into it. The quote itself, the presentation, the breakdown to the customer, the piece of paper or the multiple pieces of paper you actually then kind of give to the client is what you actually charge the client, including your overheads and also including your profit. I'll show you once we kind of go into the software as well. You can also factor in inflation, future inflation, that's going to work its way through the job itself. Because if you're estimating today, but the job's not due to start for a month or a couple of months or even 6 months down the line, by the time that you actually kind of come to start building, bet your bottom dollar, materials are going to go up, labour rates are going to go up, especially with Brexit looming and everything else. I think I read a report the other day. Suppliers are stockpiling. It's very difficult to get materials and stuff. They're holding back to see what happens. So you just don't know. You got to future-proof your estimates as well. So you can actually add a small percentage in there. Also, as well, all the wastage that kind of comes along with the job as well. You can obviously calculate the wastage allowances as well within the job. So what we're actually going to do is just briefly look at EstimatorXpress, because we have got a lot to cover tonight, and Simon is going to carry on in just a minute. So I'm going to kind of give you an overview of the software, but we do we are asking after the presentation, try and book some really kind of personal one-to-one demonstrations. And looking down the list, I know there's a couple of you guys in there that are kind of at that stage of kind of looking at it, and we are going to kind of, I think here we're going to give a couple of you a bit of a help with some of the jobs that you're actually comparing. So a brief overview of EstimatorXpress. What I'm going to do is take a very simple extension. The parameters and the dimensions of the job is going to be a lean-to extension with the it's going to be a 4 meter wide, 7 meters in length. So we've got about 28 square meters worth of building. The height of the walls are going to be around 2.5 meters, and we're going to put a 30-degree pitch on the roof. So I guess it's a question of how much would you actually charge on this job. I know it's some of you might be kind of pricing by the square meter. So maybe just kind of a quick calculation in your head on a 28 square meter lean-to extension. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy. A couple of windows, maybe the old bifold kind of thrown in there as well, just to kind of have a mental kind of calculation towards the end. So we can actually use one of the features in the software, which is our kind of quick quotes with the templates embedded in there. Some of you have probably already kind of seen this. It does kind of typically give you a specific kind of job shape. So we'll be kind of using that particular option. Now all we then have to do is actually put in the details of the customer. So I've already kind of pre-filled them in there a little bit. We can put the customer's details in there for the quotation. So as I said, the quote is key, getting that out, making sure that all the customer's details are all mapped on there. So when it comes off, they know who it's exactly for. And what we can also do as well is actually review our profit markup. So I'm actually going to go for that 30%. That's the default of the software. That's what it kind of comes out at. So we do know that that's what you should be kind of applying on these jobs anyway. And as I said, we can also control that kind of future-proof. We can put that 2% inflation. We can also delay it by a number of weeks into the job as well to make sure that we're kind of covering ourselves on there as well. Because we're using the quick quotes, I can actually choose the template that I want to build. I can change up the wall materials. We can do either brick or render or stone, but I'm going to kind of do it as a brick. And then we get our nice little kind of 2D plan. We can put in the dimensions. As I said, we're going to do it 4x7. And then some of the questions here, we can define the height of the ceiling. As I said, I'm going to be doing this at 2.5 meters high. The pitch of the roof, I can do it 30 degrees, so change that up. The depth of my trenches, I can leave it about 1 meter down. Because we've already picked a brick and block cavity wall, all I have to then do is just change the widths of the wall makeup, and just kind of changing these kind of elements and stuff is then going to kind of recalculate. I was just kind of showing Simon as well, we've got a really kind of nice update that's coming soon as well, that's going to have the price as it's kind of calculating on screen for you. So there's a really nice kind of juicy update coming as well. So just going to put the slab in there as a ground bearing, insulated and reinforced. I can also choose whether or not I want to finish it with the screed on top. My roof, I can either define it as a cut roof or a truss roof, and I can also go up to the rafters rather than going up to a kind of a flat ceiling on there, or just leave it as a flat ceiling and press complete. And this is really all I'm doing. What's kind of going on in the background is the software is actually calculating all the elements to this job. I can put in our bifold doors. Now the software actually links in with a manufacturer called Crystal Direct. So we can put in the size of the door that we want. We can also put in the finish on there as well. Change of colours. Maybe the customer is asking for a specific colour. We're just going to use these as white. And then we've got the price of the actual door there at 2250. And this is direct from the windows and doors manufacturer called Crystal Direct. We can also include the kind of lintel on there, and we can also include the kind of cavity closer system. And then we just the kind of finish on there. And we actually add the bifold door, and then we do tell the software how many we need, just the one. And then that's pretty much the door included. And we can also do the same for the windows. I can then kind of go and choose the windows that I want. And by choosing the windows, again, we can choose the varying kind of style of the window itself. And this is all then transferred onto our quotation. So we're kind of choosing what the actual customer wants, and we've got our kind of prices in there. Again, we can choose the colour. It'll also choose the lintel for us, and then we can also choose the cavity closer on the windows. Again, we can also then put into the software how many windows we actually need. So we've got the 2. What we can also do as well is we can actually add a specific room to the job, and then we can start doing some of the internal estimating as well. We can say it's going to be a family room, that's what they want us to build. We can put in the length and the width of the room. It's going to pick up the height of the wall from the template. And we can put in a number of electrical items. You might use a subcontractor, but you might just want to make sure it's all itemized on the quotation. So based on that size of room and that type of room, the software is then going to give me a couple of ceiling roses. I can change the number of light switches, and maybe we want a couple of 3 wall lights on there instead. And maybe they want an extra kind of double socket and a TV point as well. What we can also do is actually add some plumbing items to this room. So again, we can choose it as being a family room, give us a total kind of area of room based on the room size. And then if I scroll down, it then starts putting in my kind of gas pipes, my radiator size as well for that room, all my kind of thermostatic valves, lock shields. And if I'm not doing a gas fire, I can actually take it out very, very quickly. And that's pretty much the software. It really is as easy as kind of going from A to B to C to D, and then we can click on the create quick quote, and you can see now the software starts calculating this job very, very easily. It is a very kind of simple kind of view on the software. It does do a lot more kind of detail. Some of you have probably found out when we kind of do demonstrations with you, and you, as I said, you've got that flexibility of changing up the different elements of the job as well. The other features the software produces a nice build phase schedule for you, and again, when it kind of comes to kind of project manage the job, and again making sure that your costs are manageable, this will then start scheduling materials based on these kind of build phases. If these build phases actually change, it means that your materials order schedule report will change as well. So you're not buying your materials far too soon. They're actually scheduled when they need to be scheduled, and you're kind of buying them when you need to buy them. This is a very important report as well. This is one that I kind of tend to show in my demonstrations. This actually gives you a breakdown of your build phase. It's actually our kind of sales price including profit report. So what you've actually got there is the item costs in a column with all the kind of build phases listed. We've also got our wastage costs. So as I said, the software will actually calculate your wastage allowances. And then we've got our kind of total cost for materials, labour, plant, all our kind of items. What it's then doing is kind of taking that 30% markup on the job, and under the column sum of profit excluding VAT, we've actually now got a click of a button, really, a projection of the profit on there, £8,500. So again, at this stage, you can then be kind of calculating this. Well, 37,142 is the sum of total prices, including my profit, but excluding VAT at this stage. So you can be making a kind of an informed decision at this stage very, very quickly of how the job is kind of progressing. There's obviously a lot more kind of goes into that lean-to extension, but what the software is actually allowing you to do is kind of get to that point, and then you can start specifying certain materials for your client and putting extra kind of cost in there, especially your overheads, your kind of travel costs, your site setup, insurance fees, health and safety fees. These can all then be kind of included into the estimate as well. Just a quick one on this one. This is actually our materials order schedule report. So again, making sure that your materials are actually ordered on time when they need to be. As you can see, it's an old kind of report we've done, but it's actually telling you there for all your facing bricks, for all your bricks above DPC less any openings. It's actually telling us how many bricks we actually need, how many we're actually calculating for wastage, and how many we need to then start ordering. So we've got 2,369 bricks to actually kind of cover that job, and then you've got your kind of costs on there as well, and even your wastage costs. So that's just one report. That report does go on for quite a bit, especially on the larger jobs. So it's a very kind of informed report for you. And last but not least, as I said about the quotation, making sure that you've got a very kind of detailed kind of breakdown for the client. You've got your covering letter, you've got your company logo on there, and it starts kind of then breaking down. And this is what customers are demanding more and more of. You can prove to them that you've allowed for everything within the estimate, and you can then kind of give them this breakdown. So this is, again, as Simon's going to talk quite soon about how to make sure you're above the competition, you're actually winning the work. And then it all gets signed off and they accept it, and everybody's happy. We did actually have that 37,142 on there. So just to kind of give you an idea, if I was kind of calculating this per square metre, we're probably estimating around about £1,500 per square metre, which tends to be a bit of a figure that I think a lot of builders do give me when I ask them how they estimate, and they tell me they're kind of estimating by square meterage rates. It's usually in around £1,400 to £1,500 per square metre. So I guess it's kind of taking that kind of experience that you guys have kind of been doing all these years and putting it into a more of a kind of a detailed breakdown for your customer, because that's the demands of the industry these days. So that's the end of my demo. As I said, I'm just going to kind of show that a little bit kind of quicker for you guys. I'm going to hand back over to Simon. He's going to talk to you about what it is that he does and how he's going to help you. So back over to you, Simon.
Thanks, Mark. I've seen that demo loads of times, but I'm still fascinated by it. I think it's a brilliant bit of software. Okay, so can you charge more? The answer to that is yes, you can. This is not about deceiving your customers. This is about charging what you're worth, covering your overheads, and making a decent actual margin for the business. On average, builders charge an extra 15 to 20% more with our help, and they win on average 13% more of their quotes into business. So yes, you can charge more. Absolutely, you can. 75% of you reckon you make between 10 and 20% margin. My guys make a good 20% margin. So I think you're underselling yourselves. Okay. All the builders I see tell me they can't charge more, but you have to understand that every job you've ever done, they could have had done by a more cheaper builder than you. So people are paying more for you than they have to. Similarly, I'm sure you all know builders that are more expensive than you. They're still in business, they're still doing work every day, and they're making higher profits than you are. The cost for doing the job is no real difference. So what can you do to get the right customers at the right money? The first thing is show confidence when you deal with these clients. You know you're worth it. Choose the right customers. Your job is to prove you're worth the difference between the price you're charging and the cheaper builders. Yes, there are loads of cheap quotes out there. It's quite common to find some idiot quoting below the cost of materials. I'm sure you've all come across somebody similar. The point is we both know the job can't be done for the price they're quoting. So it never ends well for the client if they use them. Anybody that's used a builder like that in the past, they won't go with a cheap builder The next time round, they're looking for a decent builder that's the right money. Your problem is that these cheap builders are brilliant at point of sale. They look and sound better than you. They've got great websites, smart vans, loads of false references on the rating websites. Also, they are cheap, so people are obviously tempted. You're losing out to these cowboys. You need to keep your team busy or they'll go and work for somebody else. So what do? Inevitably, you slide your price down to the level that keeps your diary full. But does this actually help your business? You get a job, you do it well, you get recommended as being good and reasonably priced. A year later, the client recommends you to a friend, and he also tells them what he paid you. 3 years later, their daughter wants a similar job done, and she wants to pay the same as her dad did. You become very busy. Your suppliers are happy. Your subbies are very happy. In reality, though, you're making lower profits each year, so you take an extra job on to make up the shortfall. We call this cycle the recommendation rut, and it's really common in the building industry. You guys have a hard job. You do a day's work in all weather conditions. After the day's work, you go visit new clients. When you get home, you then work on your quotes, and you do this 6 or 7 days a week. We regularly get manual copy quotes emailed to us at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I was actually due to have a business review meeting at 8 o'clock this morning with one of my builders, and he emailed me at 8 o'clock to say, sorry, I was working on my quotes till 3:30 this morning. I haven't had enough sleep and enough time to get to you. Can we reschedule for next week? Half my builders are divorced. They have no private life. In addition to that, your backs go, your knees go. The reality is that you guys aren't charging what you're worth. You know it, but amazingly, your clients know it as well. So how did you all end up like this? When you put your price in, the customer always tells you they've had a cheaper quote. They really want to use you. Can you please match the cheaper guy? When they don't use you, they always tell you it's because you're too expensive. And I can tell you now that at least half those people are lying to you. We've now given out over £636 million worth of leads for builders to quote on. Our builders aren't cheap, but in 2018, only 6.09% of customers said they didn't use our builders because they were too expensive. In 2017, it was 6.21%, and since 2003, it's been 8.51%. And interestingly, last year, about 3% of customers told us they ruled out a builder because he was too cheap and they didn't think he could do the job correctly for the money they were charging. In every case, though, they still told the builder he was too expensive. Excuse me. So when the builder next quotes a similar job, he's tempted to price even cheaper. Now, before we work with builders, we survey their past customers on every aspect of their business and staff. And in 2018, unbelievably, 67% of clients told us that the main reason they chose the builder was because he was recommended and cheap. And in 2017, it was 52%. So it's getting worse. We get surveys back saying he was too old, he was too young, he had tattoos, I don't trust people with beards, he had bad breath, I didn't want him in my house for 4 months, he was 6'6" tall and I felt intimidated. We had one back that said, I didn't trust this guy at all. The first thing he did was go upstairs and take loads of pictures of where the stairs were going to go for my loft conversion. He didn't ask my permission. For all I knew, he was photographing my knicker drawer. And in the end, I paid out £8,000 more for somebody that felt safer within my house. There are two big failure reasons nowadays that crop up time and time again. The quote wasn't detailed enough, and it took too long to come. And that's why I think HP Excel is so necessary. My message to you guys is that most of you are looking the wrong way. You're understandably focused on your cheap competitors and how to win jobs against them. Hopefully, I've shown you that you can't run a profitable business by lowering your price. You just end up working for people who are looking to pay below the market value. They don't have any money to put aside front for seams. They don't want to pay for any extras. If you do get the job and do it well, you end up in the recommendation rut and build lower profits in your business for the future. So what you should be doing is looking in completely the other direction. You all know builders are more expensive than you. Most of them don't do a better job than you. These expensive builders often have an office and a staff and other overheads that you don't have. So they have to charge 50 to 20% more than you, but they still get work. So what you should be asking yourself is, what do I need to do to make people want to use me at the higher price other builders are able to charge? what I talked to you about earlier about putting your margin on your actual costs, your variable and your fixed costs, and ensuring you put your percentage on to make a profit for the business, doesn't mean you're still charging the right price. What you have to look at is the market value for that job. If you're working from home and you haven't got any office staff, your cost of running your business is lower than average and lower than it probably will be in a few years' time. So you're basing your fixed cost at a lower than normal rate. So by the time you put your margin on, you're not charging what other people are charging. So your business is all about working for the right customer for the right price. If you do that, you've got the money to do the job properly. You can pay your guys a little extra so they're always available when you need them. You yourself can earn proper money. There's some left over a pension and profits for the business. There's also enough margin for you to come off the tools and pay somebody to do the work you were doing on site, or like a lot of my guys want to do, put money aside for their own developments. So how do we break this cycle? First thing you need to do is you need to get some leads with no previous price history. You then need to prove to these people that you're worth paying more for. You then make good profits on those jobs. You then get recommended in a different way. You get recommended for the quality of your work and not so much for your price. You then make good profits on future business. So, excuse me, we can help you find out if you're too cheap or you're too expensive, if you're professional or if you're not professional. If you don't understand why you're winning or losing jobs, you can't move your business forwards. As a valued client of HBXL or potential client of HBXL, we can offer all of you a free business review. So we'll review your company, including giving you feedback on your last 6 jobs. We'll send a very detailed questionnaire, our normal vetting questionnaire, to 6 of your past jobs on every aspect of you, your business, your staff, your pricing and so on, what they liked about you, what they didn't like about you. Also how your price compared to other builders that quoted on those jobs. And would they use you again? We'll also give you a 1-hour free business review. Excuse me. We'll go through the results of the surveys with you, and we'll show you what our successful and expensive builders are doing, and we'll compare how you're currently working. This review will give you an independent overview of your business, and it will form a template for taking the business forwards. It will also help you define what your profit margin should be. You can then program this new margin into EstimatorXpress, and it will add it to all your quotes. You'll have a much better understanding of what clients really think of you. It will highlight the changes that you need to make in your business. If you want to take things further, we can work proactively with you on every one of your own quotes. Using our systems, as I said earlier, you'll charge around 15 to 20% more than you are currently, and you'll convert around 13% more of your own inquiries into work, and we'll give you continual feedback and mentoring for the business. Depending where you are in the UK, we can also provide you quality leads to quote on. Thanks for listening. I hope you found that interesting. I look forward to any questions that you might have, and I'll pass you back to Mark.
Thanks for that, Simon. So I guess kind of your next steps, booking a kind of a personal demonstration, a bit more kind of in-depth kind of look at EstimatorXpress or any other kind of packages that we offer. It's not just about estimating. There is also our kind of CAD system, Plans Express, as well as health and safety, which is very kind of focus on at the moment with the HSC. So do kind of talk to us about that, and also our kind of project expert software as well. Once kind of jobs go live, how do we kind of then kind of project manage them through to kind of completion? So there's a lot more to us than just the kind of estimating side that you guys have maybe had a brief look at today. And obviously arranging your kind of 1-hour free business mentoring and review from what Simon's been kind of informing you guys what he can offer with the Better Business Group. So that'll be your next step. So we'll be kind of following up with you guys post our presentation this evening and kind of talking to you about that. If you want to jot down our details, more than happy. I think most of you have probably already got our details at HBXL, but that's my number there. And as I say, we will be in touch, and obviously Simon will be in touch as well as a kind of a follow-up post our demonstration. You will probably get an email from us as well. There's a little kind of survey on there as well, just asking for follow-up. So we do get your permission for that. I just want to say thank you very much for giving your attention this evening. I know it's it's very kind of precious your time, so kind of giving your last day of 45 minutes or 48 minutes has been appreciated. So yeah, as I said, if you have any questions, do please feel free to use the GoToMeeting or GoToWebinar software. Ask questions, and we'll give you a couple of minutes to do that, and we'll come back to you once we've taken a bit of a sip. All right. Speak to you in a second. Okay, just a couple of questions, probably more kind of pointed to you, Simon.
Okay.
Would you kind of recommend if I go to visit a customer, that I kind of put on a kind of a suit, or do you think I should kind of go around all kind of branded up as my company?
I don't think it makes that much difference, actually. You have to do what you're comfortable with. Different types of clients expect different sorts of things. If you're going for £1 million new build, you don't probably want to go covered in mud and walk through his house with your muddy boots on. The more important thing is you turn up when you say you're going to turn up, you act professional at all times, you look knowledgeable, you're helpful, and make suggestions about the job. There's no right or wrong here, really. Hope that answers the question.
Yeah, I think that kind of answers that particular question. Yeah, it was just another question for me, really, just the what the actual kind of software covers. So obviously the software EstimatorXpress will estimate anything as the certainly kind of residential, domestic kind of builds, ranging from very kind of small jobs, certainly kind of up to extensions, renovation work, loft conversions if you're having to kind of do those, as well as kind of new build work as well. So it does kind of cover a broad spectrum when it kind of comes to estimating residential work. It will do some light commercial work as well. So if you're refitting out kind of office spaces into living spaces, or even kind of vice versa, it certainly will kind of handle those as well. Just one for you, Simon. What kind of area do you actually cover for the builders that you kind of speak to?
Well, we've got builders all over the country. Where I give my leads out currently is basically from the south coast up to about Sheffield and west across to Oxfordshire. But I can expand this into any areas, really.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Yeah, I think that's us probably pretty much done for this evening. So as I said, many thanks for attending. It's been very, very appreciated. Just might have just one more question kind of coming in here, just as we were kind of saying that. One sec. Yeah, just a message from I guess my kind of £1,400 per square meter, probably about 10 years ago, maybe kind of London, probably around about maybe about £2,000 per square meter. Yeah, I mean, I guess I kind of get whenever I speak to builders and I kind of ask what they're kind of charging per square meter. It does, I guess, depend on the size of the project, but yeah, £1,500 to £1,800 per square meter is generally a kind of a figure that gets kind of thrown at me. I mean, I guess it's about trying to get away from that £1,400 or £1,800 per square metre, and trying to kind of give a bit more of a detailed kind of breakdown. I mean, at the end of the day, what kind of goes into an estimate is cost, is kind of an estimated rate. It kind of comes down to the materials and stuff you're actually using, your kind of discounts and stuff with your suppliers. What profit markup you're looking to do, the contingencies, emissions, provisional sums, that kind of thing. So there's certainly kind of within the industry, there's certainly from a technological point of view, things are changing. I see a lot more kind of extension work these days. It's all very much kind of steel framed and very kind of open plan with nice big kind of bifolds. Conservatories aren't really conservatories anymore. Everyone's getting into kind of orangeries and giving it a bit more kind of a rustic look with lots of glass and everything else. So, I mean, the industry's changing, so costs will change. And the things that are kind of are on our horizon with Brexit and everything else, it's well, how is the kind of industry? What is it going to be in 4 to 6 months' time? I guess nobody really knows. But I guess at the end of the day, costs, you need to kind of be on top of the cost. You need to be on top of the charges that you're being kind of put upon, especially with labour and everything else. I think they were saying, yeah, Simon,
Can I come in?
Yeah.
Okay. Every inquiry that is made to us to recommend builders on, we ask them all their budget. And where have they got that budget from? They got it from the architect. Even today, I had people, the architects are telling them to pay no more than £1,000 a square metre. So it's totally unrealistic. The architect knows it's totally unrealistic. So why are they doing that? They do that because if they know that if they tell the customer it's £1,700 a square metre, only 10% of them will pay them to draw the plans up. So everybody that comes to you basically is being wrongly advised about the value of the job before you set foot in the property. And this is why you have to price for the job. You mustn't go by what their expectations are of what they want to pay. A job has got a value. You're in business to make money. You're not a charity. You're not a bank. You need to charge the right money for the job. If the client then hasn't got that money, they've got several options. They can postpone the job, they can save up, they can dig deeper, or you can value engineer it to scale the job back to the money they have available to pay, which is what we often do with clients. The other thing we haven't touched on is payment terms, contracts, all this sort of stuff. If any of you want to contact me about that, we can give you contracts that are all in your favour. Most of my builders take 20 to 25% deposit 2 weeks before they start the job. Fortnightly payments on the job with no valuation, and the final payment is £1,000 or 5%, so that any stage you're working on the client's money, not your own. And that way, if things go pear-shaped halfway through the job, you're off the site and you've still made money. These are all the things that you need to consider to make sure that you're earning money on what you do. If you're only working on a 10 to 20% margin, like 3/4 of you said you were, your margin of error on that job is really small. It doesn't take much on that site to really swallow that up. If the client pays money and doesn't want to pay for the extras, you could be working there for 4 or 5 months for no return. So at the end of the year, that time is completely lost to you. If you only do 1 job or 2 jobs at a time, to replace that lost time and make that money back is extremely difficult. Then I see loads of builders, and I talk to loads of builders that make profit all year round and then lose most of it on one bad payer throughout the year. And they've been better off sitting at home doing no work at all. So this stuff about costing your jobs properly, working for the right clients on the right terms, right payment structure is really vital. You could probably do half your turnover and make more money if you did it a bit smarter, which is what we'll hopefully try and, hopefully try and help you do. So I'm losing my voice, Mark. I'll have to pass you back.
That's all right. Yeah, just off the end of that question as well about kind of confidence in the software, and I guess that is all about kind of changing over from a tried and trusted method that you probably had in yourself and your own experience to kind of having the confidence that the software itself is kind of arriving at an accurate kind of figure. What I'll probably do, Clive, is I'm going to try and get you in touch with one of our users who's actually used the software, probably been in the same boat that you were at the very initial stage. How do I trust it? Is it give me the figure that I want it to? Maybe try and put you in touch with the guys who are using it in the real world, because we can say as often as we want to in a demo, this is how it works and this is what it arrives to. But unless you kind of see some real kind of time experience with a builder like yourself who's using it and how they're actually using it and how they've actually arrived at the prices. And also as well, I mentioned earlier about, I didn't mention it in tonight's demonstration, but we do obviously offer an estimating service. What we do find is once builders actually use the service, what they'll end up doing is actually coming back and kind of using it again. So I guess that's the reflection on they're actually tendering for the work and actually winning the work as well with the quotes they're actually putting out, and they will kind of come back to us and they will kind of use the service again. So there is that option as well for you, just to kind of experiment with it, see how it goes, and see what happens once you put it out there to the customer. And we can obviously kind of sing to your tune as well, what you want to put in there, what your profit margin you want to put on top, what your labour rates and that are being that are being kind of charged to you. So there is a couple of options in there, so we can try and build that trust. Because at the end of the day, you need to have trust with the software and make sure and feel confident with it. So we can hopefully try and.
Can I come in there, Mark?
Sorry, yeah.
Can I come in there? Okay, what I always tell my builders to do is don't just buy it and go live with it. As soon as you're confident that you know the software, put one of your past jobs on that you've actually done, so you can compare how the price comes out under the software to the way you costed it yourself. You'll know whether you actually made money or not. Hopefully you're costing your jobs individually. You should know whether you made money the way you costed it previously. And you can see how it's costed separately through EstimatorXpress. My experience is that it will make you charge more money, primarily because you're all undercharging at the moment compared to what you should be charging. And I think you need to look at all this from the customer's point of view. We really like this software because my builders win more jobs on it. It looks more professional. You get the quotes done quicker, and you're awake when you're doing it. You're not doing it at 3 o'clock in the morning like my guy from yesterday when he's half asleep. Also, it stops disputes on the job because it's so detailed. They can't turn around and say, yeah, but you told me all my downlights were going to be gold plated or whatever, because everything's listed there down to the last screw and nut and bolt. So all the way round, it makes you look more professional, it wins you more jobs, it helps you charge the right money, and they can see what they're paying for. They can see the difference in your quotes, these cheap quotes they're getting. The other thing you have to bear in mind is what your cheap competitors do. They don't want to give a detailed quote because they want the opportunity to come back and say, oh, I didn't quote you for this, I didn't quote you for that, this is extra. I had one of my builders lost a job, and the lady phoned me back. She went with somebody that's £10,000 cheap on an extension, and the guy finished the brickwork shell with no windows and doors in and asked for his final payment. And she said, well, what do you mean? It's not finished, I've got no windows and doors. I said, well, I didn't quote you for that. If you want it, it's another 25,000 quid. So these guys want to do a very brief quote with no detail. And once you show them that you give a detailed quote, you're up front, it's unequivocal what you're doing on that job, so they can see what they're paying for. All right.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree on that one. So it's all about us helping you kind of build that kind of trust and confidence in the software, that's what we're in the business of doing. That's why we've got our kind of our support team in place, and we've also got the other option of the estimating service and stuff as well. So, but as I said, I'll put you in touch with some builders who are using it, and Simon can probably do the same, because as Simon says, a lot of majority of his guys are actually using the software and actually winning the work with it. So it's just about kind of building that, and that does take time. It's not something that's done overnight. And we do recognise that it's not a magic wand. It's not going to kind of you do need to kind of put a bit of kind of effort and a little bit of kind of time into it to kind of get it to how you want it to be, and that does kind of take a little bit of time to do. I think we're probably wrapping up for the evening, guys. So as I said, thanks very much for your time. We will be in touch. Have a pleasant evening. I don't know if the football's on tonight, but hopefully you might be able to kind of get the Champions League as it's kind of kicking off. But yeah, the rest of us will probably go off and have a nice beer and something to eat. So anything from you, Simon?
No, I think that's great. If anybody wants to have a chat to me, no commitments, happy to have a chat and advise them on their businesses, not a problem.
Cool. All right, this is getting recorded, so we will send it out to you, and we will kind of follow up in the next day or two. All right. So yeah, thanks very much. Have a good evening, and we'll speak soon. Cheers.
Thanks, guys.